Britain didn't collapse. It quietly went mad. A country where million-pound houses have mold, trains don't arrive, and hospitals need hospital care. Where working full-time still means being broke, and where keep calm and carry on became less a slogan, more a coping mechanism. This isn't the Britain of crisis headlines, it's the Britain of quiet absurdity, where dysfunction has become tradition. Welcome to the modern United Kingdom, proud, tired, and trapped in its own polite decline. There was a time when middle class in Britain meant something. A home, a car, a family holiday in Spain, a pension that didn't depend on luck. Now it means surviving just well enough to look fine on paper. Between 2008 and 2024, average real wages barely moved. But rents? Up over 30%. Energy bills doubled. Food prices, the steepest increase in over 45 years. In 1990, nearly 2/3 of Britons identified as middle class. Today, that number has fallen below 40%. Even those earning £50,000, once a comfortable wage, are one emergency away from debt. 1 in 5 rely on credit to buy essentials. 2/3 say they feel financially anxious every month. It's not poverty, it's managed instability. A balancing act between rising costs and frozen opportunity. The paradox? Britain looks wealthy, but prosperity has narrowed into a postcode lottery, and London wins every time. On paper, London is a global titan. If it were its own country, it would outproduce Sweden or the UAE. But beyond its glass towers, another Britain begins. One of collapsing bus routes, shuttered high streets, and temporary job contracts that never end. For every pound of wealth created in London, less than 40 pence reaches the northeast. Entire towns depend on warehouses, call centers, and zero-hour gigs to survive. This divide is now structural. Incomes in the capital are 50% higher than in the rest of the country, but living costs erase the advantage. Even in London, the average rent now swallows 2/3 of take-home pay. The dream of social mobility, that hard work lifts you up, has curdled into irony. The ladder isn't broken, it's been removed. Here's the uncomfortable secret. Britain's economy isn't lazy, it's inefficient. Before 2008, productivity rose 2% a year. Since then, it's flatlined. Germany invests 20% more per worker in machinery and innovation. The US doubled down on tech hubs and green industry. Britain? It cut spending, froze wages, and filled gaps with cheap labor instead of progress. Factories closed, apprenticeships vanished, research funding became an afterthought. Now the UK ranks near the bottom among developed nations for productivity growth. That's not just a statistic, it's the silent reason wages stay stagnant, why public services underperform, and why the country feels like it's working harder, but going nowhere.
My younger one was nearly 3 and my other one was 7. So, we made this house a home. It's a home for us.
And did you ever think that you'd have to move out?
No.
If one crisis defines modern life in the UK, it's housing. Because in 2025, Britain, a home isn't a right, it's a lottery win. The country builds 200,000 homes a year. It needs at least 300,000. That 100,000 shortfall stacks up every single year, creating a generation locked out of ownership. Home ownership among 25 to 34-year-olds has collapsed from nearly 60% in 2000 to just 28% today. In London, the average house costs over £520,000, and the average salary is roughly £35,000. That's 12 years of income for a roof. Public housing, once the safety net, has been gutted. The right-to-buy policy sold off 2 million council homes since the 1980s. Most were never replaced. Now more than 1.2 million people wait for social housing. Only 160,000 units exist, and rents? They've reached absurdity. £2,600 a month in London, £1,500 in Manchester. For many, that's after tax income gone, before groceries even start. The UK has the highest rate of homelessness in the developed world. Over 300,000 people officially classified as homeless, 131,000 of them children. That isn't just a statistic, it's a mirror, reflecting a nation that calls itself wealthy while failing to house its citizens. For decades, the NHS was Britain's crown jewel, proof that fairness and compassion could be state policy. But today it's on life support. Waiting lists have exploded from 3 million people in 2014 to over 7.5 million in 2024. That's 1 in 9 Britons waiting for treatment. Hospitals are understaffed, underfunded, and in many cases crumbling. 1 in 5 NHS buildings are officially labeled not fit for purpose. Water leaks in operating rooms. MRI machines decades old. The repair backlog now exceeds £10 billion. And yet, NHS budgets have increased. So why the chaos? Because demand is outpacing supply. An aging population, chronic illnesses, rising costs of new treatments. The system wasn't built for this scale. What was once a model of dignity has become a waiting game, where time is the price you pay for care that used to be guaranteed.
The budget is exactly 1 month away. Last year, the Charter announced a huge increase in taxes, especially on employers.
For years, Britain's answer to every crisis has been the same: borrow. Each time, the debt ballooned, now nearly 98% of GDP, the highest since World War II. But debt today isn't just debt. It's expensive. Interest rates at 5% mean the UK now spends £100 billion a year just to service interest, more than it spends on education. And because a quarter of government debt is inflation-linked, every price surge makes the bill grow faster. The Institute for Fiscal Studies warns Britain faces a permanent £50 billion gap every year. Cuts or tax hikes, either way, something breaks. It's not just a budget problem, it's a generational one, because the next generation will inherit the bill for promises they never made. Britain doesn't just have an economic problem, it has a participation problem. 11 million people are now economically inactive. 3.5 million are long-term sick or early retired, the highest number ever recorded. Another million care full-time for relatives. The result? Fewer taxpayers, more demand on the state, and a productivity gap that widens each year. The response has been immigration, 745,000 net arrivals in 2022 alone. But instead of stabilizing the economy, immigration has ignited political tension, fueling culture wars, protests, and policy U-turns. The labor shortage remains, the debate deepens, and the economy continues to drift, neither expanding nor collapsing, just stuck. But if stagnation has a face, it's painted in the colors of Brexit. Because while Britain's old wounds never healed, it decided to open a new one, by choice. It was supposed to be about taking back control. Instead, it became an experiment in controlled chaos. Since leaving the EU in 2020, the UK's foreign investment dropped by 25%. Major firms relocated to Amsterdam, Dublin, and Frankfurt to keep single market access. Exports to the EU are now 15% lower than they would have been without Brexit. Smaller exporters have simply quit Europe entirely, crushed by new paperwork and costs. The fishing industry, once symbolic of independence, shrank further. Farmers face labor shortages. Supermarket shelves show gaps where bureaucracy replaced trade. Brexit didn't create Britain's decline, it accelerated it, turning chronic problems into permanent features. And now every pillar of public life shows cracks like transport, education, policing. The HS2 high-speed rail project, once pitched as a national triumph, ballooned from £33 billion to over £100 billion before most of it was cancelled. Across the country, local councils are going bankrupt. Birmingham, Europe's largest council, effectively insolvent. Others are close behind. Bus routes are slashed, libraries shut, youth centers gone. The safety net that once defined Britain's decency has holes big enough to fall through. And through it all, the message stays the same: efficiency savings. Two words that now mean fewer people doing more work for less pay. But Britain's decline isn't just economic, it's emotional. The Office for National Statistics reports life satisfaction at its lowest level since records began. Over a third of Britons say they rarely feel happy. Depression rates have nearly doubled since 2010. More than 60% believe life was better in the 1990s. Not easier, but better. This isn't nostalgia, it's recognition. That Britain used to offer stability, not struggle disguised as resilience. A nation that once built railways and empires now debates whether it can fix a pothole. A society that once exported vision now imports despair through its news cycle. The absurdity isn't just in the problems, it's in how normal they've become. Queues, delays, cancellations, excuses, the bureaucracy of decline. Perhaps the most dangerous part is that people are adapting, expecting less, accepting less. When a train cancellation barely surprises you, When a 4-hour A&E wait feels routine. When paying half your income in rent feels normal. That's how absurdity wins, not with chaos, but with compliance. Britain isn't a failed state, it's a fatigued one, a place too polite to panic and too exhausted to reform. And yet beneath the gray skies and sarcasm, something remains. The quiet defiance that built the country in the first place. The question is, will it awaken again? Or will Britain simply keep calm and carry on pretending? Life in the United Kingdom today is an irony wrapped in bureaucracy, powered by nostalgia. A country still rich, still proud, but stretched so thin it's hard to remember what normal even feels like. Because the waiting, the paying, the lowering of expectations, this is normal now. And that's the most absurd part of all.